Let's cross over to Nigeria now. More than 400 prisoners are missing following a raid on a prison in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. 4 inmates and a security guard, as well as several attackers, were killed after prison was targeted on Tuesday night, according to officials. Islamic militants have said they carried out the attack, and dozens of jihadists are thought to be on the run. More than 5,000 inmates have escaped during prison breaks in Nigeria since 2020. Let's get some more on this latest incident. We're speaking to a journalist with Channels TV, our partners in Nigeria, Kayla Megwat. Kayla, thank you very much for joining us. Now, is it clear what necessitated this particular attack?
Good evening, Ghana. Not quite sure what necessitated the attack. What we do know is that this is a type of attack by ISWAP, and of course we've seen ISWAP take responsibility for this particular attack. They're calling it it's a style that they use called the demolishing the wall technique, or something that has been used in other jailbreaks for ISWAP members around the world. The figures are 19 people injured. Of the 19, 16 were inmates and 3 were members of the NSCDC. The number of people who have died, according to the Chief Superintendent of Corrections at the Nigerian Correctional Service, 5 people dead, he says. 5 people dead. His name is Mr. Umar Abubakar. 5 people dead. Of those 5 people, 3 were inmates and 2 were personnel of the NSCDC. The figures, the facility in itself, like we've been saying, is a medium security custodial center.
Right. And
was housing 994 inmates. 443 were recaptured and 551 are currently in custody. So the total number of inmates who actually escaped at the time was 879. The escape, of course, like I said, 443 have been recaptured and 551 are still in custody. So still quite a number of people out there. What we do know is that the Minister of Defense has said every single Boko Haram member in the Kuje facility has escaped. That is where we are on that. Not one of them has been recaptured. They are still out there, all 64 of them, yes.
And Kayla, we understand there's a general state of insecurity following this incident. Many are worried because these prisoners were jailed jihadists and members of the Boko Haram, like you say. So how are people reacting to this, especially in Abuja, which is the capital?
That is a very important question. You know, the Kuje Correctional Center is in the nation's capital, the seat of power. It is 2 hours away from the city center, but still in the nation's capital. And it's a very big cause of worry. 300 people invaded this center and were able to rescue their Boko Haram contemporaries under the watchful eyes of, this is supposed to be the most secure city in Nigeria. So yes, a lot of people are very scared. I spoke to a few people who live in Kuje who say they want to leave. You know, they figured, you know, why would we still be living here? You know, and apart from that, we're seeing response from even government officials who are expressing shock. The president himself, President Muhammadu Buhari, went to the correctional center and he was in shock when he got there. He said, how did this happen? I want to take his words. How can terrorists organize, have weapons, attack a security installation, and get away with it? Those were the words of Mr. President. He says he wants a full report on what's going on and an investigation is going on. But the update that we have today from the Senate president who went to the correctional center today, stunning to hear him say that he didn't find one CCTV camera. Not one CCTV camera in this particular place. In fact, his words were, I am very disappointed that there are no CCTV cameras at this particular correctional facility. And he's asking the Controller General of Prisons to ensure that the request, so they're going to start the request for CCTV cameras in all maximum and minimum custodial centers be included in the 2023 budget. So it's, it's something I would have never thought. I'm sure if you were thinking of a prison in Ghana, you wouldn't think that there's no CCTV camera.
Absolutely not, and that is quite shocking as you report. And in previous incidents, we saw others recaptured. As you're reporting right now, about 443 people have been recaptured. From the shock of the president by way of the loose security, so to speak, at the prisons, and what the defense minister said, what plan really has been rolled out that would give confidence that some more people, especially the Boko Haram convicts, will be recaptured?
That is a very worrying, worrying situation for everyone here. There are several questions. Are there going to be people fired? Who's going to be held responsible for this? Are the Boko Haram escaped Boko Haram terrorists still in Abuja? Are they in the city center? Are they roving around? Are they trying to move into neighboring countries like Ghana? What is happening? What's the story? What can get back the confidence of Nigerians who live in the nation's capital about security? We haven't gotten those answers yet. So sadly, this situation has thrown up more questions than answers. But as we saw things unfolding and we got more information as they unfolded, maybe in the next few days, we'll be able to get more certain statements from the government. All we're hearing right now is an inquiry is going in. We have to investigate this. I want a full report. We've been hearing a lot of people say it's more than statements this time. You can't just put out a statement. You can't just come and say it's outrage. We have to see action. And I think that's what a lot of Nigerians are hoping for.
Well, let's see how this pans out. Kayla, I'm grateful that you could join us. Kayla is with Channels TV in Nigeria, our partners. Let's stay in Nigeria and speak to a security analyst, Uzoma Kingsley. He is MD Africa for Modern Security Consulting Group. Uzoma, I'm grateful that you could join us. The phenomenon of jailbreak is becoming synonymous with Nigeria. What is your reading into this latest attack? Well, you'd have to unmute, Uzoma, so we can hear you. Well, if you're unmuted, just tell us about what you're learning about this latest attack. I mean, this is not the first time you're seeing a jailbreak. It's happened, and about 5,000 people have broken jail since 2020. What is your reading as a security analyst into this particular one happening in Abuja, right in the heart of the capital?
Good evening. Okay, thanks for having me. It's quite unfortunate that this happened in the capital of the nation, Abuja. And we saw the feedback from the president, the heads of the correctional services, and others. It shows a failure of intelligence and to a high degree of governance, especially in the criminal justice system. Okay, because in the last 2 years, we've had approximately about over half a dozen of attempted or jailbreak from Imo to Ondo, Kogi, and what have you. And so we begin to ask questions. How come? Because the indices are there that government need to take appropriate measures to make sure that these centers, these critical infrastructures are well secured. Okay, so it's one thing for you to get intelligence, is also another for you to know how to utilize it. Okay, so you might ask yourself the question, the location of this correctional service in Abuja, the Kuje Area Council, the neighborhood you have is a very bushy area, not to call it forest. Okay, so adequate measures are not even in place. The host communities, who are those living there, how do you assess people? And gathering intelligence on the path of the security agents is not what you do on certain vehicles. That's the mistake they've been making over time, because the average Nigerians out there can identify who a security agent is. We now know them as people who move about mostly with politicians, mostly with sirens, and you see them with clean vehicles, so you know when they are coming. Okay.
I mean, it goes without saying when you say intelligence has been low, because as we're learning tonight, the president was shocked to find out that there were no CCTV cameras at such an important facility. But what does this mean, finally, Uzoma, for terrorism within the sub-region, seeing that there are a series of events, a series of attacks, especially on jails where you have Boko Haram elements locked up?
Okay. May I remind you that over time, especially with the last attack that happened to the victims of the train victims that are still in captive, part of their demand is for the government to release their men who are in custody at the correctional service. That has been going over time in the last couple of months, and these guys have also been carrying surveillance. You see them, maybe their men using riding on Okada and things, people within that community and the headers. Okay, so they supply and seem to have more information than that. It's one thing for you to have a CCTV, is also another for it to be functional. Okay, so for government or the Senate president to make references or being shocked that there are no CCTV in these facilities, only touchlights or bring to limelight the fact that no audit is usually carried on these facilities from time to time. And there are distinctions between a maximum prison and a minimum prison, okay? So the level of the perimeter fencing is also cause for questions, among other issues.
Thank you very much. That's a security analyst in Nigeria, Kingsley Uzoma, joining us on the jailbreak in the capital, Abuja. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Mino. Still to come, members of the Swami Magazine chapter of the Ashanti Youth Association have served notice. They will not accept any further delay in the development of the Swami Magazine Industrial Enclave.